Welcome on into the Tuesday edition of Morning JOX here with you on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for another morning. As we have super regional set here in college baseball country, SEC baseball country, maybe not as many teams as we had thought we would have in the super regionals, but we certainly have some SEC representation to go around. So we've got that to talk about. We've got SEC representation in the softball national championship series, which has now been set. So no surprise there. The SEC, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to exist.
Yeah, but I think some of the participants, it's got a little bit of shock, I guess you would say.
Well, we're a dying conference, and that's why, we've spent so much time trying to, overcompensate recently and talk about how great the SEC is. It's because we all knew deep down that we were actually a dying conference, and we've been trying to delay the inevitable, Damian, and that's why, people have been saying, oh, well, y'all must get, the SEC must pay y'all to talk so highly about them. They do. Because they're a dying conference, and they're,
they try to get as much as they can.
Well, yeah, because there's no reason to actually be optimistic about the conference that has a team that's playing for a College World Series in softball and is going to have the opportunity to do so in baseball. The same conference that just won the NCAA tournament in basketball.
Yeah.
Same conference that puts the most players in the NFL year after year.
Look at you listing off the resume.
Oh, no, I'm just, it's a dying conference according to people on social media because you get into the postseason of baseball and things don't go, we got 13 teams in and I guess all 13 were supposed to advance to the Super Regionals.
Right, there can only be one.
So it is what it is. But no, I kid, just, people love to take their opportunities when they see an opening to take their shots, and that's exactly how you would expect things to go, especially with some of the volatility right now with the different conferences and, the college football playoff and, the SEC won't go to non-conference games, and some people don't like that, and so there's a lot of drama. It kind of comes off like a reality show at times in college athletics, but that's part of why we love it, I guess, because of all the drama that you have there. But all kidding aside, we do know as far as SEC baseball goes, again, you did have 13 teams that made it to regionals. You had a number of them. 8 of the 16 hosts in the regional round came from the SEC. And, while I think having 4 teams advance to the super regional round certainly isn't bad, that means that 9 teams got eliminated in the regional round, and that's the reality of it. And I do think it's fair to say that that's certainly on the disappointing end of what we were expecting to have. But we will see if one of these teams will be able to continue the SEC streak of national titles and College World Series titles there in men's college baseball. But we did know already Auburn, they had advanced over the weekend. They're going to be hosting Coastal Carolina in the Super Regional. You also had Arkansas. They had already secured their spot heading into yesterday. And we are going to get an all SEC Super Regional, right? So you are guaranteed at least one spot in the Men's College World Series because Arkansas, they're going to host a regional there in Fayetteville, and they're going to get to host Damian's favorite team, the Tennessee Volunteers.
Whoa. Baseball's a different animal.
So who do you root for in baseball?
I'm just an SEC guy.
You're just an SEC guy?
SEC guy. I'd lean Auburn. You know me, big Auburn baseball guy.
Good year to pick them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about last year? Would you have said the same thing?
No, I was Texas last year.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Just making sure.
I was Texas, and no, I was Tennessee last year.
Oh, you were
Tennessee. Yeah, the year started running together as you get older.
Well, you're just used to Tennessee winning so many things now that it's hard for you to keep up because you're such a diehard fan.
Absolutely.
So Arkansas, they're going to host Tennessee there. That's going to be one of your super regionals, but you did have 4 teams in play last night with an opportunity to clinch their spot in the super regionals as well. As I mentioned, Tennessee, they took down Wake Forest 11-5 yesterday. A little bit of controversy in that one if you're a professional lip reader, but we will leave that for social media. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know. Otherwise, Go find out. Sorry, I don't know. Don't really know what else to tell you there.
Yeah, it ain't a clean way to.
Let's just say you might, if you see a statement from Wake Forest baseball today, just saying I told you so.
They have to take the high road.
But I will say quickly on that situation, if that is what he said, that's totally not cool. Don't think that there's room for that in the sport. But if that is what actually happened, to then go up there and just hit a nuke to right center field off of the pitcher and just absolutely tee off on a home run, that was pretty badass. Can't lie. Sometimes it just works out, right?
Yeah.
So that's so that was a situation there. But Tennessee, they knock off Wake Forest 11-5. So they have now advanced to the Super Regionals for the 5th year in a row, which that's an absolutely remarkable accomplishment. Of course, they are the defending national champions as well. Unfortunately, you did have a couple of teams that weren't on the winning end of things last night. You had Ole Miss in a great game against Murray State. Murray State advances 12-11, but you had Ole Miss. They hit a 3-run bomb late to make it a 1-run game in the 8th inning. You thought, okay, maybe the magic's going to come back for Ole Miss, as we saw a couple years ago on their magical run to a national title. Unfortunately, they come up just short in the 9th inning on a line drive to center field. That was all that she wrote. And Murray State knocked out the Ole Miss Rebels there in Oxford. So Murray State advances on with a 12-11 win. The first game you actually had yesterday was a blowout as Oklahoma was taking on North Carolina. And North Carolina, they just smacked them around, honestly. It was 14-4 there. So North Carolina, they advance. Oklahoma going home. Going into about midnight, you had 3 games that had been decided. You had one that was still going on. So Tennessee advanced to the Super Regionals. Ole Miss, Oklahoma finding themselves on the losing end of their matchups. But then you had LSU, who was taking on little old Little Rock. And we talked about it yesterday. So going into the game on Sunday night, LSU had been a 7.5 run favorite. 7.5 runs, a favorite.
Yeah,
in a baseball game.
And that's if ever there's an equivalent to football, that's like 28-30. Like it's a comfortable.
Yeah, that's
margin.
a massive, absolutely massive spread. And so, of course, Little Rock won the game, right?
Yep.
Because that's just the way that it goes. And so last night you had LSU, and they were going up against Little Rock again, and it looked like it was going to go the same way for a while because Little Rock got up to a 5-1 lead early in this game in the 2nd inning. And then LSU, though, they were slowly able to chip away. They were able to get back to a 6-5 lead at one point. And then they hit a couple home runs late in the ball game to solidify it. So they win 10-6. LSU, they are heading to a Super Regional. So they're headed to their 17th Super Regional in school history. So, again, if you're keeping score at home, Auburn, Arkansas, LSU, and Tennessee are the 4 SEC teams that are still alive as it stands today. And these are going to be your matchups. I already told you Auburn's going to host Coastal Carolina. Arkansas is going to host Tennessee. LSU, they're going to host West Virginia. Louisville is going to host Miami. Oregon State is going to host FSU. North Carolina will host Arizona. UCLA is going to host UTSA. And you're going to have Duke hosting Murray State. So those are going to be your super regional matchups. That's what's going to be going on as far as college baseball goes. So congratulations, 4 SEC teams advance. Unfortunately, 9 fall short, and we will see how it goes this weekend in the super regional.
And something I thought about, too, with, you talk about, schools are like an everything school. You look at Duke. Duke, they had a pretty good football season.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, of course, they make a Final Four run, and now in baseball, got a chance to go to Omaha. Like, is Duke an everything school now? Not just academics. Like,
I was about to say, and academically, they're very high up.
Come on, man! You talk about a good recruiting pitch this year.
Yeah, certainly not bad. And you just paid a quarterback $4 million a year. So
they got
the money is.
Hey,
yeah,
Duke's sitting right.
Money's flowing in there. So yeah. Yeah, Duke's certainly making a strong argument. And, hey, we look, the football program wasn't where it needed to be last year. But, you look at Auburn, and, you made a Final Four. You're now going to a super regional in baseball. I know softball didn't quite, make it as far as they were hoping their season would, but they still had a nice season as well. So things, golf's going very well for Auburn. So
I didn't know that, but yeah, there we go. Moving on up.
Oh, come on, you got it.
They are in everything.
You got to lock in on the Auburn golf, Damian. What are you doing?
That's my apologies. I have to pound the tape.
I just heard they're doing good. I just took someone's word for it.
I got you.
I'm sure they are.
I'll take your word for it. Tennessee, they've been a everything school for at least since 2022.
Well, yeah. Ever since you got on board, it just kind of turned things around for them.
I was the battery in their back. I was the charge they needed.
That's right. And for that, they thank you.
Appreciate it.
But speaking of Damien's favorite school, the Tennessee Volunteers, while they did advance to a super regional for the 5th straight year in baseball, they were also in action in a little bit of SEC softball yesterday, as you had the semifinal rounds of the Women's College World Series. So you had 2 games where if we were potentially going to go to a winner-take-all Game 3 situation today, but we avoided both of those. And so the first game you had yesterday morning was Texas and Tennessee. Texas shuts out the Vols 2-0. So Texas advances to the Women's College World Series finals for the 3rd time in the last 4 years. They've never won a championship, but this will be their 3rd trip, their 3rd opportunity in the last 4 years. And the reason that they haven't won a title is because they ran up against Oklahoma the previous 2 years, and they lost both of those matchups. Oklahoma, the 4-time defending champions, what we're trying to become here in Birmingham with the Stallions. The 4-time defending champion Oklahoma Sooners, they needed to win 2 games against Texas Tech to find themselves back in the championship series, and they come up just short as Texas Tech hits a walk-off sacrifice fly yesterday afternoon, as they advance 3-2. So Texas Tech knocks out Oklahoma, the 4-time defending champs. And we are going to have Texas Tech versus Texas starting tomorrow. That will be your championship series. You have Game 1 Wednesday, Game 2 Thursday, Game 3, if necessary, on Friday. Texas Tech has never made it this far before, so their first trip to the finals, Texas going for the 3rd time in the last 4 years, and we'll see if they can bring it home for the SEC.
You think Patrick Mahomes will show up to the
Probably so.
Yeah. But congratulations, the old Big 12 matchup. But now the Texas in the SEC, they represent well.
Well, this just goes to show. Texas Tech, they win in Canada. Their pitcher, that they went out and spent $1 million in the transfer portal to bring her over, and now you see that they're going to the championship series for the first time out. That's
you're getting it.
As far as NIL investments go, I would say this is one of the ones that has that ROI is looking pretty good right now. So, that's very cool for the Red Raiders, though. They will take on Texas tomorrow in the Women's College World Series on the softball front there. So that's what's going on as far as your super regional matchups in the college baseball. Your championship series coming up in college softball now is that set between Texas and Texas Tech. We have people already texting in claiming that Damien is actually an Auburn fan,
whoa.
Which he has admitted to before.
Whoa. Let's simmer down, y'all. It's Tuesday, June the 3rd.
I don't see a lie though. That's the only...
Listen. Auburn baseball for sure, 1,000%, for sure. Butch Thompson, he's a Birmingham Southern grad. Like we're dialed in. There's a personal connection I have with the
so
Auburn
you
baseball.
Have an excuse ready to go.
There's a personal connection we got.
Mm-hmm.
It's all love. It's all love.
Yes, it is. Quickly, before we move on from baseball, though, one other thing that I did want to pass along because we talked about it. I don't know if y'all talked about it on Mac and Q, but we spent a little bit of time on 3-Man Front talking about it, and that was the situation with Kevin O'Sullivan, the head coach of the Florida Gators. So if you missed this, over the weekend, they were playing Coastal Carolina in their regional. And one of the games, because it's tournament baseball, things happen, whether a game goes long and so it pushes the next game back, or maybe there's some weather conditions that I know some people were having to deal with, and that kind of messes up the scheduling. But essentially, Florida, one of their games got delayed and got pushed back, and their head coach, Kevin O'Sullivan, was not happy about it. And he went on a little tirade to some of the crew there and at Coastal Carolina's facility, and it was caught on video. And it's not a very flattering video. It definitely does not paint him in a very positive light.
Not at all.
And, it was embarrassing, to be completely honest, if you're a Florida Gator. And so they released statements yesterday, both Scott Strickland and Kevin O'Sullivan, You can go read them. Florida Baseball on their Twitter account posted them in their entirety. But I'll just read you a brief part of Scott Strickland's and Kevin O'Sullivan. So Scott Strickland said, quote, "This afternoon met with Kevin O'Sullivan, told him that his actions prior to yesterday's NCAA tournament game fell well short of expectations of how Gators treat people. One of our department's core values is respect, and Coach O'Sullivan's unacceptable actions failed to demonstrate that." That was part of the athletic director's statement. And then from the head coach himself, Kevin O'Sullivan, he said, quote, "Prior to yesterday's NCAA tournament game against East Carolina, I let my emotions get the best of me and channeled that energy in a way I should not have. I want to sincerely apologize for my actions and behavior to the entire NCAA regional field of Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, Fairfield, and the NCAA." So,
you think Wake Forest is going to do the same thing?
I don't know. That one might be a little bit of a different situation.
Yeah, that one might be different.
Look, I mean, it is what it is. Some people had certain thoughts about the statement and maybe how it was generated. Written is what I meant. But anyways, they have come out. They made an apology. It is what it is. I think we can all agree that he made a ASS of himself, and he's probably not proud and realizes that wasn't his best moment. So, be better in the future, coach. But that is their statement. They have come out and apologized. That's better than nothing in my book. But, the real testament is let your actions speak louder than your words, and don't let that happen again.
That's it.
And, we can all move forward from there. So that's what's going on in SEC baseball world. Now we're going to take a quick break. We do have a Mount Rushmore coming up later today. We're going to do our Mount Rushmore of SEC mascots. So I know a number of you had texted in asking for us to do that one over the last couple of weeks. So we are going to do that a little bit later in the show. If you want to send those in, 205-834-9450. But I have a couple of college football topics, a couple of college football questions that I'm going to ask Damian when we come back. So I have some questions for Damian and you as well, the listeners. Again, 205-834-9450 if you want to chime in about your SEC mascots or any of these questions I have coming up. But some thoughts, some things that we haven't discussed a while in the world of college football. Get Damian's thoughts on where those are at this point in the offseason. Take a quick break, come back on the other side. You're listening to Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. .621, welcome back in to Morning JOX here. Conrad and Damian with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. Got some college football questions for Damian and for you as well, the listener, that I have been thinking about, and just some things that have come out of the last few days, and wanted to get y'all's opinion on them. We are also going to do our next Mount Rushmore. We're going to do SEC mascots coming up here in just a little bit, so some of you starting to send those in now, and you can continue to do so. 205-834-9450 is how you get on the courtesy GMC text line. But first, quick reminder, tonight here on JOX 94.5, you're going to have Braves baseball as they are back in action, set up to take a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks. First pitch going to be 6:15 tonight following Paul Feinbaum on JOX 94.5. Spencer Strider back on the bump for the Braves. So I know that's probably as much as even the Braves fans want to talk about Braves baseball right now. But
hey, shout out to the Colorado Rockies yesterday.
They did. They got a win.
They're in double digits now.
Yep, they got their 10th win. So if the stat no longer applies, but before yesterday, this was my favorite stat in a while. The Rockies and Scotty Scheffler had won the same amount of matches since May 2nd. So Scotty Scheffler had won 3 golf tournaments, and the Rockies had won 3 baseball games. But that's no longer the case because the Rockies have now won 4 baseball games. But
that's brutal.
Yes, it absolutely is. So, yes, however miserable you might be as a fan of whatever team you are, whether it's the Braves or Auburn football, at least you're not a Rockies fan.
I'm telling you.
So, yeah, that's just a little bit of there's your MLB update for the day. But okay, so some of the college football stuff I wanted to get to here. So we'll start off with this because this is something that came out yesterday. And this is the College Football Hall of Fame. So we found out some new names that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. And so you can play along if you're listening as well. You can text in 205-834-9450. But I just want to ask Damian's thoughts on some of these players that are eligible. Some of them I think are no-brainers. but some of them maybe not so much. And if Damian would put them in the College Football Hall of Fame, or if they're just very good college football players, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody can be in the Hall of Fame, but we do have some pretty notable names here. So we'll start off with an easy one. Cam Newton. I think we can all agree that in his first year of eligibility, that one's kind of a shoo-in.
Lock in.
Yeah, don't think there should be too much trouble there. How about Mark Ingram? First Heisman winner in Alabama history.
Yeah, and national champion.
Yep. All right, and you would put him in?
I would put him in.
All right, what about Ndamukong Suh?
Yes. One of the most dominant defensive tackles to ever play.
RG3. He won a Heisman.
And I think that if you win at one point in your career in college, you were the best player on the football field. That has to carry some weight. Now, how I feel about him personally, but Hall of Famer, yes. Strictly at Baylor.
It's just because he likes milk too much, right?
I plead the fifth.
Isn't that what it is? Oh, okay. I thought I heard you saying something about that. Okay, moving on from Robert Griffin III. All right, so we have Dez Bryant, former Oklahoma State star wide receiver.
Did Dez Bryant win the Blitnikoff?
I'm trying to remember if he did. I know he was an All-American, but he did not. He did not. But he was an All-American.
Let me look at his numbers first because
he had. All right, I'll go ahead and tell you. So in 2007, he had 43 catches for 622 yards and 6 touchdowns. In 2008, he had 87 catches for 1,480 yards and 19 touchdowns.
I'm gonna say no.
He had one really good year,
right?
And that was it.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. What about Josh Heupel?
Yes,
as a player.
Yes.
Former Oklahoma quarterback.
Absolutely.
Okay. He won a national championship.
Exactly. He's going to be in there in the Coaches Hall of Fame as well.
What about Marshawn Lynch from his days at Cal, driving the golf cart?
Okay, me personally, I don't really remember him from college.
So we're looking at didn't do a whole lot had okay as a freshman, had 600 rushing yards, but he had 1,250 as a sophomore, 1,350 as a junior, 29 career touchdowns.
Maybe I don't think I don't think he gets in first ballot, but I think his name carries so much weight of just how popular he is, just as a figure, that he's starting to. He'll probably be in that like folklore category where people, if you saw him in college, you're like, you thought he'd be pretty good. I mean, he's a first round pick too, in the NFL. But I remember mostly from his NFL days. I'd say he eventually get in. I don't know if he gets in first ballot.
So somebody that I know, we were very young when he was playing, but he was still around kind of during our time. I wonder what your thoughts are, if you have any, on Ryan Leaf, because as we know, again, one of those guys, he was in the same draft as Peyton Manning. He was the bust. Peyton Manning ended up being one of the greatest players of all time, but had himself a nice career at Washington State, threw for almost 4,000 yards, 34 touchdowns his final season. Was a very good player in college. He's a first-team All-American.
Me personally, probably not. I don't, because when I look at the quarterback numbers of just some of the all-time stats, he's not even in the ballpark, especially when it comes to passing touchdowns too, and just how many that people threw in their careers. Because you got to take the whole career in totality. But I mean, he had Washington State in the Rose Bowl, so I think that if this is a Washington State Ring of Honor, yeah, but Hall of Fame. No. I kind of go to the Skip Bayless route when it comes to Hall of Fame. If you have to ask, then I don't think you're a Hall of Famer. You're probably not a Hall of Famer.
That's fair. All right, so that's some of the players that are going to be up for it. Again, a lot of the ones that we immediately just kind of knew. You're saying are surefire Hall of Famers. How about a couple of coaches, though? All right, you got Chris Peterson, so the former Boise State and Washington coach, took Washington to the playoff, had Boise State. He was the coach when they did the Statue of Liberty against Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
I think Chris Peterson has a strong argument for maybe being the most underrated college football coach of all time. I forgot what it was. I looked it up yesterday. What his winning percentage as a college football head coach is .795. That's good. So essentially, 8 out of every 10 games he ever coached in college, he won.
Yeah,
that's remarkable. He was 92-12 at Boise State, 54-26 at Washington, including that year that he took them to the college football playoffs. So yeah, he's absolutely incredible. I think he certainly belongs. What about Gary Patterson, the former TCU head coach? Just for you personally, just based on what you remember about TCU when we were growing up, they were a very prominent program.
Yeah.
They were them and Boise State. I feel like it's interesting him and Peterson together because them and Boise State were always the not power conference teams at the time that you felt could actually compete.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult because he's going to be compared to Chris Peterson. But I think for when you look at just overall success, especially while he was there at TCU, it's hard not to deny him. It's almost very similar to what conversation you're eventually going to get with Mike Gundy. It's when you look at the resume, you kind of have to take into account, well, football was a little bit different back then, and he was kind of looked at as an innovator. Like, he was kind of looked at as one of those. He had TCU in national prominence, where they were being discussed as being one of the best teams while they were under his leadership. So, I'd say yes.
So there was so he had a 10-year stretch from 2002 to 2011. In those 10 seasons, TCU won 10 or more games 8 times, and they won 11 or more games 7 times. I mean, when you just go and look at, 10-2, 11-2, 11-1, 11-2, 12-1, 13-0, 11-2, 12-1, 11-2, 11-3.
Yeah.
Like, he had some stinkers tossed in there as well, but
when he won a lot.
Yeah, and even because he was there for a significant amount of time after they joined the Big 12, and still, we all remember 2014 when you could make a pretty strong argument that they should have been in the playoff, but they weren't. And so, of course, he wasn't there when they got walloped by Georgia a couple of years ago. But I certainly think he's an interesting one. And then how about, and since you knew that you admitted that you grew up a fan of him, what about Tommy Tuberville? Is that someone that you would vote for the College Football Hall of Fame?
No. I don't think his resume, because he only won the SEC one time when that was with Auburn.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and you could say he got screwed that one year for not playing for a national title, but he never coached for one, and everywhere that he left, he had good success. But I wouldn't say it was Hall of Fame worthy success.
Well, it's unfortunate for him because we could say, well, in 2004, you should have gotten an opportunity. And if they had won that game against USC, that would greatly, I think, change this conversation, right? I think he'd definitely be a shoo-in if he had a national title.
And I think that's where...
But then you have people say, well, he would have won one. He didn't get the opportunity.
Right, but we're talking about just absolute stone-cold facts.
Yes,
and
correct.
He doesn't have one. So I think that you have to either have the Chris Petersons or the Gary Pattersons type winning percentages, and I just, because I don't think he was, I don't think he necessarily changed the game as far as what he did on the field. Now, again, some of his teams had good success, but I don't think it was just top tier where it's a Hall of Fame worthy resume.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. I think he's one of those guys that you can certainly make a good argument for if you want to go that route. But you can also see where maybe he wouldn't be. I guess at least a shoo-in for sure for the Hall of Fame. So yeah, that was just something coming out with the Hall of Fame that I thought was interesting. Wanted to get Damien's thoughts on if he would include them, or if these are people that he would vote for. And let's see, we have somebody chiming in. They just said, yeah, no one was going to beat USC back in 2004.
No, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't going to go there, but yes, that is also the other belief that everyone that's not an Auburn fan has of, okay, they might have done you a favor by not having to play that game, honestly, because, yeah, they were that was a force to be reckoned with for sure. So appreciate y'all chiming in. We got some of your texts coming in as well, but now we're going to take a quick break, come back on the other side, share our Mount Rushmores of our favorite SEC mascots, and then get to your list as well. You're listening to Morning JOX on JOX 94.5. .637 here on your Tuesday morning. Connor and Damian with you. Appreciate you joining us on Morning JOX. McElroy and Cubic in the morning coming up from 7 to 10. Then three-man front out at Social Taco in Homewood from 10 to 2. Of course, Paul Feinbaum show from 2 to 6. And then Braves and Diamondbacks. First pitch tonight expected to be at 6:15. All right, without further ado, it's time for us to do our daily Mount Rushmore exercise here on the show. And today we are going to do a widely requested one from many of you over the last couple of weeks, and that would be mascots in the Southeastern Conference. So let's get it underway, Damian. And this one was actually kind of tough. I'm not going to lie, trying to go through and pick. I guess maybe I went the easy way out. We'll see what people think. But these are the four that I selected. First off, I have to give an honorable mention. I do really like the Oklahoma, the Sooner Schooner, whatever, if that's what they call it, the wagon. It's kind of different mascot because it's an inanimate object. So I don't know. It's almost kind of in a different category. But I like the tradition,
yeah.
and being and going to the game in Norman. That was certainly the highlight of the entire game for me, was watching them come out onto the field, because it was misery after that. But yeah, so that was an honorable mention for me. So my four favorite SEC mascots, I had to go Big Al, obviously. I love Big Al. He's the GOAT. But besides Big Al, I did go with Mike the Tiger.
Attaboy.
I like Mike the Tiger down there at LSU. Not as crazy-eyed as the Clemson Tiger.
Right.
That one's disturbing. Mike the Tiger a little more
tame, a little more sane.
Exactly, which is kind of funny because it's the LSU mascot. I did have to go with Bevo. I mean, come on, just having live cattle like that. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? And I think we all remember when Bevo and Uga went at it, and that wasn't ever going to go well for Uga. So yeah, got to go with Bevo. The fact you do get some bonus points for just having a live mascot, in my opinion, and having a steer out there. Yeah, that's absolutely going to get it. And then finally for me, it was tough, and I didn't want to go with multiple tigers, but ultimately Albie's a good mascot. Albie's a good. I can't say anything negative against Albie. If you wanted to include the eagle in there instead, I could totally understand that. The eagle flight is very cool. But if we're just going with the mascots, I think you can't really hate on Albie. So mine were Big Al, Mike the Tiger at LSU, Albie the Tiger, and then Bevo from Texas. Those are my four mascots, Damian. Who are yours?
It's very similar. I actually have Mike the Tiger in my honorable mention.
Okay.
And I didn't think of Oklahoma. I didn't think of the wagon until you said it. And I was like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense, because again, it is
their mascot. Technically, it's just
right. It's just not
an object.
It's an object. Number one for me, I have Albie. I think Albie is one of the more entertaining mascots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he changes suits throughout the game. Like, he's always interactive. And I think like a mascot national champion, hadn't they put that banner up a couple years ago?
Sure.
I think I haven't really seen the tape on that one, but I heard that he was a national champion in that. Number two, I have Big Al, as well as me and you both big Alabama fans. I have Bevo as number three. Like you said, if you have an actual live Longhorn out there, and like you said, Uga, be glad he wasn't 2 centimeters to the left, and it could have been probably have to postpone that game.
Yeah,
it would have been
a lot worse. Yeah.
But I have Uga as my number 4 Mount Rushmore as well.
Okay, yeah. See, I think we're going to get a lot of people chiming in with Uga. We got a lot of people. Yeah, someone said Brandon chimes in. He says Albie has multiple natties.
Let's go.
More than any other mascot. See, I was talking about Auburn golf earlier. I should have been talking about their mascots. Absolutely killing the game over here. So a bunch of you, all right, your lists are starting to flood in now at 205-834-9450. So those are my list, or mine and Damian's list there for our favorite SEC mascots. Y'all seem to have a lot of opinions on this, actually. Seems like we might have some disagreements going on in the text line. But we're going to take our last break, come back on the other side, and get to your reaction. The final few minutes of the show dedicated to you. the listeners at 205-834-9450. Tell us your favorite SEC mascots. You're listening to JOX 94.5. Welcome back into Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell, and you, as we run through our newest edition of the Mount Rushmore series, SEC mascots. I gave you my 4 favorite mascots in the conference. Damian gave you his as well. A little bit of difference in our list, and now we go to many of you on the Courtesy GMC text line who have sent in yours. I think we even have a text inspired by one Mike Leach that we'll get to if you maybe know what direction we're headed in based on that. So I appreciate.
I didn't know the air raid had a mascot.
Appreciate that, huh? Oh yeah, just be an airplane. Be nice and easy there. All right, so we'll start at the top here and go through some of these. So let's see. We have someone who chimes in. They go, first off, I'm a dog lover, so my favorite mascots, he's going Smokey. Surprised Damian didn't have Smokey on his list.
Nah.
Sorry,
I think of stuff on the field when I think of
Tennessee. Yeah. All right, so we've got Smokey, the Tennessee mascot. You've got Uga for the Georgia Bulldogs. He goes Mr. Commodore as well. And then, I'm sorry, I don't know how you pronounce it, Texas A&M. Is it Reveal? They're the Border Collie. I don't know how you pronounce it. But their mascot, the Border Collie there, which, I mean, it's Texas A&M, but Border Collies are beautiful dogs, so right. I can't, and I love dogs, so I can't knock them for that one. But appreciate you sending in those. Let's see. Someone from Arkansas says, if we can pull Jordan Hudson into the SEC to be a mascot, I would go her, Big Al, Mike the Tiger, and Aubie. I don't know if she wants to be a mascot. Yeah,
that's a wild text message, dog.
Yeah.
God almighty.
Yeah. Can we pull Jordan Hudson to the SEC, ? To be a mascot, ?
God almighty.
Got double questions in there.
What's wrong with these people, man?
I think she's happy just being Bill's business. I don't know, whatever she is. Let's see. What is this? All right, we've got somebody sending in pictures of Uga going after an Auburn Tiger, both on the field and Aubie. Oh, and then we get Big Al kicking Aubie in the rear. Appreciate you.
Dang, dog. Even to the mascots, the haters.
Yeah, apparently so. Michael chimes in. He goes on the topic of Auburn being everything school and Aubie winning national titles. He goes, equestrian and mascots, real animals and fake animals. I guess you have to hang banners for something in Lee County.
Don't do them like
thank
that,
you, Michael,
man.
for
don't do them like that.
Chiming in there with your thoughts.
Oh, and I have the pronunciation. It's Reveille.
Reveille. Okay, thank you. That's okay. That makes way more sense. That's actually a pretty name. Okay, I can't, even though it's A&M, I have to respect that. Let's see. Someone chimes in. Bo in Haleyville. He goes, Ole Miss, the national champions of mascot confusion. Yeah, they don't know what their mascot is or what they want their mascot to be.
Used to be old Colonel Rip, but
yeah. Then it was a shark.
Yeah, the Land Sharks.
Yeah, and now I don't even know what it is at this point.
It's like Colonel Land Shark now.
Yeah, I guess it's a combination of that. Let's see. And Bo in Haleyville adds, Damian is the definition of a bandwagon fan for almost championship teams, but I have to give him credit. He's not a bandwagon fan for actual championship teams.
Yeah, don't want to go full.
No. You just want to get, you want to be in contention.
Exactly.
But you kind of,
we hover around above average.
Leaving a little bit for the next year so you can go pick someone
Not a
else.
complete front runner.
No. You love a good bronze medal. Love a good bronze medal. All right, Alan in Pell City, he chimes in. He's going Uga, Bevo, Smokey, and Auburn's Eagle. He says anyone that's in a mascot costume is a fraud. Real animals all day. I agree. I mean, I do. I think having the live mascot does benefit you, but the people that put on the costume, I have to respect that. That is some work, no doubt about it. Let's see. Fanboy, he chimes in. He goes, LSU, number 1, they have a real tiger. Number 2, South Carolina, he said the beaks are funny to me. Number 3 for Big Al because of the way he moves his hips. Man, Those hips be moving. And then he goes, number 4 would be Florida with the Gator. It's like, okay. I like that. Let's see. Joseph chimes in. He's going Uga, Bevo, Mike the Tiger, and the Auburn Eagle. Honorable mentions for him go to Smokey. And I already forgot how we were saying it. Revile? Reveille. I'll get it one day. Reveille. Let's see. Someone says, you must not have seen a bulldog on a farm. They run the cattle all the time. They run the cattle in every bull out there. That's actually how they got the name bulldog, is for herding bulls.
Well,
I did not know that.
He was off his game when Texas came in there.
Well,
Sugar Bowl.
Uga's a little...
Yeah.
He's not in game shape.
It was a little different for old Bevo.
Yeah, he's been living that good life. Let's see. Eric in Adamsville, he says, little known fact, as good as TCU football has been in the 2000s and beyond, they are 1-2 versus UAB all time.
Oh,
okay.
Didn't know that.
And it says TCU actually promoted Gary Patterson after Dan Franchione. Okay. Or Dennis Franchione. Okay. Interesting.
Well, he took it and ran with it. Did a good job.
Certainly did. John says Tommy Tuberville's only argument for the Hall of Fame would be the 6 straight wins against Alabama. Don't think he's a first ballot kind of guy, but he will eventually get in.
Yeah, same like Eli Manning.
Okay. I think that's... We'll see about that one. Let's see. We have Cliff who chimes in. He goes Aubie, Uga, Mike the Tiger, Smokey. Honorable mention for him would be Bevo. Okay. Like that. Bobby, he chimes in. He goes, best mascots, Mike the Tiger, Aubie, Big Al, and Uga. Honorable mentions for all of them except Florida and Missouri. Don't like their mascots. Okay.
Missouri's got a cartoon tiger. Like it's not intimidating. It's too friendly.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Don, of course, he's going to have Aubie at the top of his list. He says the 11-time national champion Aubie.
11 times?
Yeah.
I didn't know they had that many mascot championship games or championship tournaments.
Don doesn't understand the rules of the game because he goes Aubie, Uga, and then Bucky the Badger and the Oregon Duck.
They're in the SEC now?
Apparently so.
Yeah. So that was a conference game when Alabama went up to Madison.
Yes, it was. And we will end on this text from Lewis. He goes, in true Mike Leach style, you have a wildcat that would probably take out any chicken or dog that's a pet. Maybe one of the men with single-shot rifles might have a lucky shot, but will probably not take out the wildcat. Now we have tigers that would take out the wildcat or a human. Don't think the boar or cow would take on a tiger. I've seen a jaguar eat a gator, so not sure how that matchup would go, tiger versus gator, but I'm going to take the tiger. Last one is the elephant, and I think the tusk factor and trampling effect would probably win out. So... in true Mike Leach fashion, Big Al would win the mascot battle royale if we were to do that at the SEC, according to Lewis.
I love that.
That's awesome, Lewis. Appreciate you taking the time to write that up. Appreciate all of you for texting in. We'll be back tomorrow. More SEC baseball, more SEC softball, Birmingham Stallions, and more. McElroy and Kublick in the morning is next.